Chapter 8. Pain. He was light-skinned, with light eyes. I hated dudes like that. I've always been intimidated by those Christopher Williams-looking jokers. Women have always shoulder surfed right past me to gawk over I'll Be Sure or El DeBarge. I had just come home from a 2-week run in the Pacific Northwest, Seattle, Portland, and a bunch of little ones in between. I used to run right off stage, into the car, straight to the airport to get back to Melanie as quickly as possible. I didn't want to leave any room for my inner hyena to grab the wheel and drunk drive through my life. I was meeting Melanie at her aunt's house. I had the car drop me off there directly from the airport. We were going to walk from her aunt's to our new home. For old time's sake, we were going to pass Overbrook High and hit the Sugar Bowl convenience store for a water ice and a soft Philly pretzel, just as we'd done 1,000 times before. I always loved how much Melanie missed me, even weekend gigs. When I come home Monday morning, she acted like I'd been gone for months. She knew how to make a dude feel glad he was home. When I walked in after the Northwest trip, she and her aunt were in the kitchen cooking, just as they'd been so many times before. Being on the road can be excruciating lonely. It feels almost like it dehydrates your heart. Her aunt was in her usual dark blue jihad with her glasses way down on the tip of her nose so she could see into the pots. The smell of the food seemed to soften and quench my parched soul. Melanie was in one of her art smocks that doubled as an apron. I always thought that was weird. Paint is chemicals. That smock did not belong in the kitchen. I looked at Melanie. Everything was the same except something wasn't. Her energy was odd. Something was off. Because of my upbringing, it's almost as if I have a shock collar wrapped around my central nervous system. When I perceive that something is askew, that someone's external behavior is out of sync with what is going on in their heart and mind, my body experiences what I best describe as a gradual rising electrical current. I feel a bzzz, and then it's like I'm shivering, but I'm not cold. The kitchen was hot, but I had the chills. We sat down, we ate dinner, we talked about the neighbors' dogs. Melanie's aunt had once been to Portland. She didn't like that section of the country, too rainy. Melanie was laughing too much. Bzzz. After dinner, we watched Trading Places. I know every word Eddie Murphy says in that movie. He was my idol. Melanie and I had seen it at least 10 times, but tonight she kept laughing too hard. Bzzz. Her aunt went to bed. We were finally alone. Melanie snuggled into me. I had missed her a lot on this trip. We kissed, but her kisses felt less like affection and more like something she thought she'd better do if she was going to successfully hide the fact that she had fucked somebody. Bzzz. Bzzz, bzzz, bzzz. To this day, I don't know how I knew or how I felt so confident to commit wholeheartedly the way I did to my instinct. Taking her arm from around my neck, pushing away, I stood up and yelled, "You think I'm stupid?" "What?" Melanie said, but not strongly enough. "I know what the fuck you did. Stop looking at me like I'm stupid." I was all in, every chip on the table. I was holding nothing, but she folded. "I'm sorry," she said, bursting into tears. "It only happened one time, but I don't love him. I'm so sorry. I love you. We were just friends and then you were gone. I didn't know what you were doing out there. I was missing you. I swear to God, I won't do it again." What? I was right? But no, why? I had been knocked unconscious in the past. My first day at Overbrook High when I was hit in the head with that lock. There is a blue flash, and then you're in a strange, alternate universe where all of the things you once believed are now up for grabs. Gravity. Cause and effect. Love. Whether or not it rains in Southern California. This is impossible. I've done everything right. I'm winning. I'm the best. I made a home for us. I've spent months arguing and fighting with the ravenous, slathering pride of ghetto hyenas to keep girls off the buses and out of the hotel rooms. I haven't touched or kissed or barely even glanced at another woman. I come straight home from the airport. We've talked about babies and making a better home than either of us had grown up in. How could you possibly do this to me? How could you do this to us? On the outside, though, I was strangely calm, because none of these thoughts were registering as actual feelings. I wanted to be angry. I mean, you're supposed to be pissed when somebody cheats on you, right? But I felt nothing. Melanie was covering her face, crying on the couch. Dan Aykroyd was attacking Eddie Murphy. Eddie was pleading for his life. "It was the Dukes. It was the Dukes." And I just stood there, numb, When somebody cheats on you, you have to do something. But what? I didn't feel any emotions, but I was not going to be a coward. Not this time. What do you do when somebody cheats on you? I know I had to do the storm out thing, but I also knew I had to do something violent to punctuate my departure. I scanned the room for possibilities. Next to the fireplace, I noticed one of those forged iron pointy thingies that you poke the logs with. But what will I do with it? I sure wish I had some emotion to give me a little direction. Nevertheless, I picked it up. The front entry to Melanie's aunt's house was a beautiful wooden atrium holding 100 glass panels. I stood for a moment, looking at Melanie weeping, deeply uncommitted to my as yet undetermined but absolutely mandatory hissy fit. I calmly carried the iron pointy thingy toward the front door and began to break the windows out one by one. I guess I smashed about 12, maybe 15 before I felt I had sufficiently done my performative duty as a cuckolded 20-year-old. I slammed the pointy thing to the ground. It scared the hell out of me. It clanged a lot louder than I thought it would. Shit. What if Melanie's aunt heard that? I thought. I should probably go. Melanie and I were supposed to be walking home together, but instead I decided to walk to Woodcrest alone. My mom had finally had enough. She had kicked Daddy-O out while I was on tour, this time for good. Daddy-O had moved into the apartment above the ACRAC office. I knew my mom would be home alone. It was about a 22-minute walk. I could not believe I had just broken all those windows. I couldn't locate where it had come from within me. It seemed so strange to me to break things because I thought I should, not because I was at all emotionally impelled to do so. This discordance was hilarious to me. Out of nowhere, I began to chuckle, replaying the scene in my mind. I was thinking, Will, you are an absolute lunatic. And that made me laugh even more. This whole shit was hysterical. By the time I got to Woodcrest, my mom was sitting on the front step. Clearly, she had spoken to Melanie's aunt. She never sat on the front step. Her eyes were brimming. She was hoping to God that I was okay, but she was bracing for the storm. She knew her boy. When I saw her eyes, I felt how completely in tune she was to my pain. It wasn't just mine anymore. It was ours. And like a blast of dynamite demolishing the dam holding back the river of my agony, I collapsed on the sidewalk, 10 feet from where the tour bus had borne me away from her. My mom runs down, throwing her arms around me as I wail, my childhood home mutely staring down upon my anguish. I had believed that leaving Woodcrest would mean I'd never have to feel this way again. How could she do this, Mommy? Why did God let this happen? My mom said nothing. She just held me. I was an adult now. My problems were beyond her fixing. I could feel her tears falling on the back of my neck. She picked me up and took me home. Heartbreak should be considered a disease. It induces a debilitating state akin to mental illness. The pain I was suffering was so intense, I would have preferred to have been stabbed or beaten or have a tooth pulled without Novocaine. My girlfriend had cheated on me, which was proof to my shattered mind that I was a piece of shit. I reasoned that she wouldn't have cheated if I had been good enough. I had failed another woman. I desperately needed relief, but as there's no pill for heartbreak, I resorted to the homeopathic remedies of shopping and rampant sexual intercourse. Shopping. That next week, I flew 10 of my friends from Philly to Atlanta and I closed down the Gucci store. Whatever y'all want, I got it, I said, slinging my Amex down on the counter. I had an Amex card now, and unlike my heart, it was unbreakable. Money was flowing like the Nile. We had just launched the DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince rap hotline. 1-900-909-JEFF was the first ever 900 number. Premium rate telephone numbers were a revolutionary new way to connect with fans, and basically the predecessor to modern social media. Fans called our number and we would leave daily messages, a few minutes long, about where we were and what we were doing. It cost $2 for the first minute and 45 cents for each additional minute. At the height of the popularity of the line, we were getting 5,000 calls a day. Do the math. My Amex card wasn't just unbreakable. It was invincible. Rampant sexual intercourse. Up until this point in my life, I had only had sex with one woman other than Melanie. But over the next few months, I went full ghetto hyena. I had sex with so many women, and it was so constitutionally disagreeable to the core of my being that I developed a psychosomatic reaction to having an orgasm. It would literally make me gag and sometimes even vomit. In every case, though, I had hoped to God that this beautiful stranger would be the one, the woman who would love me, who would heal me, who would make this pain go away. But invariably, there I was, retching and wretched, and the look in the eyes of the woman even further deepened my agony. I was doing the very thing I hated Daddy-O for, hurting women. I was miserable, so I purchased my first house, a mansion facing Marion Park, in the rich neighborhood across City Line. I had seen it in my dreams. Bleached white hardwood floors, 2-story ceilings in the living room, and a jacuzzi in the master bedroom. Not in the bathroom, in the bedroom. The first thing I bought for the place before beds, couches, towels, or even silverware was a pool table. I eventually got a bed. It was the first time I'd ever slept in a king-sized. Me and Harry had slept in the same bed most of our childhood. Me and Charlie Mack had roomed together on the road. I realized the first night on Marion Road that I'd never really slept alone. I didn't like it. My heart was bleeding. I was dying in love with Melanie Parker. I wanted her back. My mind at the time still correlated performance with love. The entire basis for my self-esteem was foundationally dependent upon whether my woman was happy. My self-image was inexorably bound up in women's opinion and approval of me. I figured that since I was not receiving the love I so deeply craved, it had to be because of a deficiency in me as the lead character. If I had performed the role of boyfriend better, she wouldn't have cheated. As you can probably imagine, that bought me a first-class ticket on a bullet train to agony. Melanie worked at the merry-go-round in the gallery, a mall in downtown Philly. I had it all planned, a grand, romantic gesture of forgiveness. I was going to walk in, our eyes would meet, I would forgive her, and she would fall into my arms, gushing tears of gratitude and remorse. Then I would tell her that I wanted to marry her and that no wife of mine has to work in a shit-ass merry-go-round. We would give her boss the middle finger, hop into my brand new Benz 300 CE, and I would take her to her new Marion Road mansion, the one with the jacuzzi in the bedroom, not the bathroom. Parking at the gallery was rough, so Charlie Mack drove us. That way he could sit in the car and keep it parked right in front of the store, so I could Romeo flex into the merry-go-round, sweep her off her feet, and carry her over the threshold to the awaiting Benz. Beep, beep. Charlie hit the horn. Yo, man, you know I don't have a license, so if the cop comes, I'ma just dip, Charlie said. This joker was messing up my whole production. Why don't you just get your goddamn license, I yelled. You know I got a gun charge, I can't get it yet. Just go get Melanie, man, hurry up before 5-0 roll up. I ran into the store. It was a quiet day. The place was mostly empty. Melanie was behind the counter, folding Jordache jeans. She didn't see me. I got to watch her for a few. I would have watched her longer, but Charlie didn't have a license. In those few moments, I knew I didn't want to be without her. Whatever was empty inside of me felt full when I saw her. All that ached was soothed. All that was thirsty was quenched. She looked up and our eyes met. There was a brief but undeniable moment of clarity. Melanie absolutely loved me, and I loved her. Bzz, shit, my damn shot collar. I don't know what it is, but I trust it. I let my attention tunnel deeper. Bzz, shit, my damn shot collar. I don't know what it is, but I trust it. I let my attention tunnel deeper inside of her. I walk up to her. We hug. Still not right. Bzz. I let go of her. We smile. I scan the store. He was light-skinned, with light eyes. I hate dudes like that. Bzz. I look back to Melanie. She pretends to fold the clothes quicker. My lunch break is in 15. We can go get something to eat, she says. Bzz. I look back to him. He won't make eye contact with me now. I see you, motherfucker. I charge across the store. He tries to get away, guilty, but there's nowhere to hide in a merry-go-round. I'm all over him. Melanie is screaming. Somehow, Charlie Mack appears and pulls me off him. The store is a wreck. So are his pretty green eyes. Charlie is dragging me, and I'm dragging Melanie. We scramble into the getaway car. Man, I told you I had a gun charge. What are you doing? Charlie barked as we peeled away. That was Melanie's last day at the merry-go-round. She promised to never see that guy again. I took her home to her new mansion on the main line, the one with the jacuzzi in the bedroom, not the bathroom. We vowed to make it work. My secret, unspoken oath was, if you come back, I promise I'll be good enough. The JBM stands for the Junior Black Mafia. Their motto in Philly was get down or lay down. meaning you were either with them or against them. You were either a part of them or you were dead. When you're a 20-year-old rapper from the inner city of Philadelphia who's just made his first $1 million, the only people who could afford to hang with you are other rappers, professional athletes, or drug dealers. I picked drug dealers. Bucky was 5'1", and the one is a stretch. He was a former Golden Gloves champion, and he was one of the top lieutenants in the JBM. When he was in the room, he commanded the first and the last word. If you had a disagreement, he was more than happy to take off his $30,000 worth of jewelry and meet you in the street. But if you were disrespectful, the jewelry didn't matter because he never wore a ring on his trigger finger. Bucky loved to laugh. He reveled in my sense of humor. With today's eyes, I could see that he was coming to Marion Road to get a break, a little breather from the stress and brutality of the street. I was his personal court jester. He loved to hear me bust on people. Insult comedy was his favorite. Coincidentally, it was my forte. I made the mistake, though, one night of cracking a joke about Bucky's height. Yo, Buck, you want a boost? Or maybe a step stool for that next shot? Nobody even snickered. Buck stayed calm, which was a terrible sight. The room fell silent. He walked over to me, his chin barely reaching my chest. He just stood there. I knew that meant I had to bend down so he could talk to me. I lowered myself like a silverback in the wild, surrendering to the alpha. Buck whispered in my ear, "Just 'cause you a star, don't mean I won't make you see some." The logic of his analogy wasn't entirely flawless, but the underlying point was well taken. I never joked about Buck again. Marion Road was now party central. At any given time, there would be 20 or more people in the house, blasting music, shooting pool, thousands of dollars worth of Philly cheesesteaks littering the kitchen. I probably could have just bought Overbrook Pizza for how much money I spent there. There were boxing matches in the backyard and a basketball court in the living room, and nonstop gambling on everything. Needless to say, this environment was not conducive to Melanie's artistic aspirations. "Willard, can you turn down the music a little bit?" she said. "My bad, babe. Give me about an hour. I'm schooling these fools." I felt like my forgiveness had been such a gigantic gesture of love that she should be grateful to even be here. The truth was, I never actually forgave her. The weekends were when it really turned up. It was not uncommon for $150,000 to change hands between Friday night and Sunday morning. My boy Bam was the best pool shooter. He was always taking our money on the table. But one Saturday night, I caught fire on the pool table. I could not miss. Full-length bank shots, combinations, 8-ball spot shots, perfect English dropping the cue ball into sweet positions. Everything went exactly where I was calling it. Buck found himself on the unfortunate end of a $30,000 losing streak. He sent one of his boys to go get more cash, but Buck lived in Southwest. That was at least a 45-minute round trip, so he threw his car keys on the table. The room erupted. "Oh, shit!" My heart jumped for a minute. But I ain't no bitch. I threw the keys to my brand new seafoam green Benz 300 right next to the keys to his custom black convertible BMW 325i. "Rack 'em up," I said. I ran 4 balls off the break, high balls. The room was church silent. Bucky sized up his first shot. Easy 2-ball in the corner. Left himself great position on the 7 in the side. A little too aggressive, though. Left himself out of position in the corner. He had to bank the 4 back under. But Buck ain't no bitch either. He ran the entire rack, and all I could do was watch helplessly, chalking my custom pool cue for a shot I may never get to take. Bucky lined up the 8-ball. Bank shot cross corner. The 8 was sailing in slow motion toward the corner pocket. The gravity of the 8-ball was preparing to snatch my car keys with it into the abyss. A roar brewing as the ball approached. "Oh!" But no. The 8-ball clips the titty just enough to rattle it around and stand up in the jaws of the pocket. The room explodes. I've got new life, but I gotta do some real shooting. I've still got 3 balls to pocket before I get a shot at the 8-ball duck in the corner. And if I miss one, Bucky's back on the table, and he's not gonna miss. My first ball is the dreaded straight shot, full length of the table. I don't play with it. I line it up, dead center of the pocket, 2 to go. Second shot would be in the side pocket, but my third shot's in the corner, meaning I gotta put some English on the cue ball. Draws, meaning hit it low to cause it to spin backward. If not, it could roll straight into the corner pocket, scratching and ensuring Bucky's victory. My concept around shooting pool was to never ponder the shots too long. Line it up, hit it. Line up the next one, hit it. No time to let my mind punish me with doubt or indecision. Charlie Mack always used to say, "Scared money can't make no money." That would become a motto for my life. But that night, it was an ice-cold mindset that made me unbeatable. And just like the rest of the night, I couldn't miss. All Bucky could do was watch helplessly, chalking his pool cue for a shot he would never get to take. I ran the table, tapped in the 8-ball, and respectfully picked up both sets of car keys. Bucky was furious, but he was way too gangster to let you see it. He stormed out of the house slinging the door open only to realize he might need to call a cab. I ran out behind him. "Yo, Buck," I said. "Not now, man. Give me a minute," he said, with all the gangster that a dude preparing to hitchhike can muster. "Buck, here." I held out his car keys. "I'm not taking your damn car." "What?" he said, confused. "You're my boy. I'm not keeping your car," I said. "You serious?" he said, looking at me like I had 4 heads. "Buck, I'm not going to invite you to my house and then take your car. I'm an asshole, but not that much." I shoved the keys into his hand. I didn't recognize it in this moment, but I would see clearly later that this was a gesture of humanity that was non-existent in the environment in which Bucky was forced to survive. He noticed it, and he became visibly emotional. "Why you tripping, Buck? It's not that serious," I said. He gathered himself, shook the keys in his hand, and said, "'Cause I would have kept your car." I turned to go back into the house. Bucky chirped his car open and yelled to me, "Hey, if anybody ever fuck with you, they got a problem with me." And he meant it. At the time, I didn't correlate my cravings and my generally erratic behavior with the wounded state of my heart. When I bought a candy apple red IROC Z and dipped the rims in a matching candy apple, I wasn't perceiving that as a medicinal reflex, nor did I connect the purchase of my custom Suburban with 4 18-inch woofers taking up the entire back half to my feelings of inadequacy, loss, and betrayal. I just thought it was fun that Betrayal. I just thought it was fun that when I was picking up someone, I wouldn't have to call ahead. I would just put my volume on about 7, and they knew who was coming. I was spun out, and I was acting out. I bought my first motorcycle, a blue Suzuki Katana 600. I didn't even know how to ride, and I crashed it in the first week. But I was balling way too hard to drive a banged-up bike, so I bought a new one, the red one. JL crashed that bike. The damage wasn't too bad, just some scuffs on the side panels. But then, not to be outdone by JL, Harry totaled it. I figured this was a sign. Maybe bikes weren't for me, so I bought a turquoise T-top Corvette. I lined all of my cars and motorcycles up in front of the house and invited Daddy-O over so he could see how well I was doing. Daddy-O pulled up in the 2-tone blue Chevy work van. He always believed that vehicles should have a utility. I stood proudly out front as he got out of the van. We hugged. "I just got the vet last week," I said. "These are all yours?" he asked, looking disdainfully at my fresh new fleet. "Yup," I said proudly. My arms were respectfully by my side, but in my mind, my b-boy stance was on swole. "Boy, why you need 3 cars?" he said. "You only got one ass." This wasn't exactly the response I'd been hoping for, but his mathematical opinion fell on deaf ears, because the 1988 Grammy for Best Rap Performance went to DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince, for parents just don't understand. Melanie and I weren't having sex anymore. Something had been broken. We both wanted nothing more than for it to be fixed, but we were barely 20 years old. Our romantic dreams were far too fragile to survive the brutality of our immaturity. I started going to Los Angeles a lot. It was the first time I realized the vibrational power of a city. As soon as the plane would touch down at LAX, something inside of me would awaken in a line. Something I was, and something LA was, clicked into harmonious agreement. The energy of the town excited me. I needed less sleep. I was always refreshed. My skin looked better. I was eating right. I wanted to work out. I was inspired. I have since realized the critical importance of environment. Choosing the city you live in is as important as choosing your life partner. And I had just met Tanya Moore. She embodied the sunshine and the possibilities that defined LA, the quintessential West Coast rider. Fine as hell, sophisticated, but sharp in the streets. She knew what neighborhoods to walk in and which ones to drive around. She knew that my Red Phillies baseball cap should come off at LAX, and I could put it back on as soon as the flight home crossed the Mississippi. Pooh Richardson was the star shooting guard for UCLA, which, next to Millionaire Rapper, was about as good a gig as a 22-year-old black kid could get. He was born and raised in the heart of South Philly, and he walked around UCLA like the damn mayor. Pooh was everything on that campus, and when his Philly homeboys showed up, he laid it out. Pooh was dating Tanya's cousin, Tagia, who basically managed Pooh's life. She handled his food, his press. She would clear the room when he needed to get ready for practice. It was a relationship mindset that to me at the time seemed so mature. Pooh was the star, but he literally wouldn't know where his sneakers were. His one job was to play basketball well. Tagia did everything else. When I saw them together, I knew I wanted that. They were partners in the Pooh Richardson going to the NBA business. He ended up playing 10 years in the league. Me and Charlie Mack rolled up to Pauley Pavilion, where UCLA was playing Stanford. We saw Pooh in the locker after the game. "Philly's in the building," he screamed. The first thing a Philly dude notices when one of his homeboys moves to another city is how bad his fade haircut looks. Philly is known for the fade. We invented it, and we do it right. "Yo, man, your barber is slipping," I said obligatorily. I probably would have said it no matter what it looked like. When you're from Philly and somebody gets their hair cut in another city, you have to say it looks bad. "Yeah, we haven't figured that one out here yet," Pooh joked, touching the sides of his fade. "If you're from Philly, you have to say something like that too." He introduced me to Tagia and her cousin Tanya. I must have been too obvious in my appreciation of Tanya's beauty because Pooh grabbed a towel and held it up to my mouth. "Yo, man, you slobbering. I don't want you to slip and fall on your spit." I shoved the towel away, slightly embarrassed but keeping my smile and my charm on blaze. "Come on, man, go ahead with that shit," I laughed, turning to introduce myself to Tanya. "There must be something in the water in Philly," Tanya said. "They're growing y'all real nice out there." Pooh jumped in. "Yo, Tanya, I'm telling you, this man is the next one. You better lock him up now because he's going from here to the moon." I was thinking, lock me up. Shit, she had me at real nice. JL was the only one of my friends who'd ever seen me cry. On a train ride to New York one day, I'd broken down when I told him the story about Melanie, sobbing into his chest. JL is not an emotional guy. I was not holding back. He would later tell me that in that moment, he devoted his life to me. JL said he knew he needed to protect me. JL pulled me up one day. "Hey man, you getting into a lot of fights lately? What's up?" There was a couple of months stretch when I literally got into a fight every weekend. I'm not sure if it was knowing that Bucky had my back, or that Charlie Mack was standing right beside me, or if it was the only elixir that could satiate my raging heart. But I started sucker punching everybody and anybody who even looked at me sideways. I was angry, because even a Grammy, millions of dollars, and a candy apple red eye rock didn't even begin to fill the holes inside of me. The thing about money, sex, and success is that when you don't have them, you could justify your misery. Shit, if I had money, sex, and success, I'd feel great. However misguided that may be, it psychologically permeates as hope. But once you are rich, famous, successful, and you're still insecure and unhappy, the terrifying thought begins to lurk. Maybe the problem is me. Of course, I dismissed that foolishness quickly. I just needed more money, more women, more Grammys. The record company was ready for our follow-up album to He's the DJ. 3 million records sold, first ever Grammy Award in rap, but this new album was going to smash all of that. JL wanted us to do preliminary recording in Jeff's mom's house, whereas I had bought cars, clothes, and houses. Jeff had converted the basement into a Star Trek level home recording studio. JL thought it would be the most cost-effective approach to get our ideas down in Southwest Philly and then go for the final recording back to London. Jive owned the recording studios there, and we got preferred rates. But me and Jeff had other ideas. Jeff had heard of a famous recording studio in the Bahamas, Compass Point Studios in Nassau. He suggested we record there. After all, Mick Jagger, Grace Jones, David Bowie, Sade, even Iron Maiden had all recorded at Compass Point. Since we were big time now and had a multi-platinum album of our own, it only seemed fitting that we record where multi-platinum artists record. Jeff couldn't wait to dig into the studio and check out the tech. I couldn't wait to check out the 2 massive casinos that had just been built in Nassau. We were hyped. JL protested, but he was outvoted 2-1. No filibusters in Jeff's mom's basement. That next Friday, we were off to the Bahamas, all 10 of us. I had never been to the Bahamas. It was 90 degrees and sunny when we landed. Our luggage and equipment got held up in customs, so we hit the beach. Rum punch and chicken fingers until the sun set. Then we hit the casino till sunrise. And that's how the recording of our new album went for about the first week or so. We had scheduled 6 weeks to record, and we had locked out the studio, meaning we had to pay whether we used it or not. Our first full session in the studio, day 9 in the Bahamas, was more like a night in a club. Jeff was DJing while we all sat around with girls and food and drinks. Occasionally, I would get up on the mic, more performing for the crowd than trying to innovate or create new music. After that first session, JL pulled Jeff and me aside and warned us that we were burning through $10,000 a day, and then if we didn't start recording, he was pulling the plug. Me and Jeff were kind of offended. "You don't understand the creative process," I said. "This environment, the people, all the stuff we're doing is our inspiration." "Yeah, Jay," Jeff chimed in. "Don't block the flow. Just let us do what we do, and you do what you do," I said. JL nodded very slowly as if to say, "Okay, I see how it is." 1 month and a couple of $100,000 into our process, and the red recording light hadn't come on once. We had still not completed a single song. I guess JL was justified in doing what he did. At the time, I couldn't believe he did it. I would never have done it to him, but I guess he felt that the times were desperate, so he employed equally desperate measures. It was a Friday night. About 20 of us were lounging around in the studio. Our LA squad had flown in to help with the creative process. I was about 5 rum punches in, and I had graduated beyond chicken fingers into jerk chicken, black beans, and rice. I guess it was hot in there because I had my shirt off. Doesn't matter how old you get, there are some childhood images that will always bring a chill down your spine or make your stomach drop. I was holding court in the middle of Compass Point Studio A when the door started to open. I first caught a glimpse of JL pushing the door wider, and then Daddy-O. The room froze. Those who knew. The other guests guessed. Daddy-O calmly took in the scene. His eldest son, topless. Rum punch and jerk chicken stinking up the room. Bahamian bikinis bouncing and misbehaving. And we were at work. To Daddy-O, this was Sodom and Gomorrah. He paused. Then, "Everybody get the fuck out," he said. "I need to talk to Will and Jeff." We landed at Philadelphia International Airport at 2:38 p.m. I slept the entire flight. I don't remember takeoff or landing. I'm not sure it's an actual medical condition, but I'm pretty certain I was in an embarrassment coma. James J.L. Lassiter had dropped a dime on me and tattooed to my daddy. The whole shit was a debacle. But within 2 weeks, our third album, And in This Corner, was at least finished. In the tragic aftermath of his Grim Reaper-like appearance at Compass Point, Daddy-O had made an aggressive but nonetheless convincing assessment of our behavior. "You boys are fucking off an opportunity that most people can't even dream about. You got a major corporation financing your project, and you got girls and shit sitting around in the studio? Keep your dick out them people's money. You can bullshit, just don't bullshit while you on the clock. This ain't gonna last forever." While Daddy-O's Bohemian intervention had saved us from further immediate catastrophe, the first domino had already been tipped. With no budget left, we quickly cobbled together the best tracks we could come up with, but there was no real vision or continuity to the album. Me and Jeff were unfocused and out of sync, and In This Corner was doomed from the start.